They paid the waitress to pretend she was his blind date. A joke. Something to laugh about later. But when the Mafia boss looked into her eyes and saw the same grief he'd been carrying for 23 years, he didn't laugh. He asked her to stay. The moment Lena pushed through the kitchen doors with a tray of champagne flutes, she knew something was wrong. Table 7. The one by the window overlooking Fifth Avenue. The manager, Mr. Caruso, had pulled her aside 20 minutes ago with an expression she couldn't read, somewhere between nervous and amused. "Lena, I need you to do something unusual tonight," he'd said, sliding a crisp $100 bill across his desk. "There's a gentleman at table 7. Very important client. His friends have arranged a surprise for him. They want you to pretend to be his blind date for the evening. Just 1 hour. Smile, make conversation, then leave. That's it." Lena had stared at the money. $100. That was her brother Danny's asthma medication for the month. "That's all? Just sit and talk. That's all. His friends think it'll be funny. Rich people humor." Mr. Caruso had shrugged. "You help me out, I'll make sure you get the weekend shifts next month too." Now, approaching table 7, Lena's heart hammered against her ribs. She'd changed out of her uniform into the black dress Mr. Caruso kept in his office for special occasions, probably left behind by some guest years ago. It fit poorly, too tight at the shoulders, but it would have to do. The man at the table didn't look up immediately. He was reading something on his phone, his profile sharp and severe in the candlelight. Dark hair threaded with gray at the temples. Expensive suit that probably cost more than her rent. 3 years working at Giordano's had taught Lena to spot wealth, but this was different. This man didn't just have money, he had power. It radiated from him like heat. Around the restaurant, she noticed them. 4 men scattered at different tables, all watching table 7 with barely concealed grins. One of them caught her eye and nodded, like a director cueing an actor. This was the joke. She was the punchline. Lena's stomach twisted, but she thought of Danny's inhaler, nearly empty. She thought of the eviction notice she'd hidden in her underwear drawer. She thought of all the times she'd swallowed her pride for less. She could do this. "Mr. DeLuca?" Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "I'm sorry I'm late. Traffic was terrible." The man's eyes lifted from his phone, and Lena forgot how to breathe. They were dark, almost black in the dim light, and completely unreadable. He studied her face for 3 long seconds that felt like 3 hours. Lena had expected confusion, maybe anger. Instead, his expression remained perfectly neutral. "Traffic," he repeated, his voice low and measured. "In Manhattan. On a Friday." He gestured to the chair across from him. "Please. Sit." Lena sat, gripping her purse like a lifeline. Across the restaurant, one of the watching men was barely containing his laughter. Marco DeLuca folded his hands on the table. "What's your name?" "Lena." Lena Morrison. Should she have made up a name? Too late now. "And who hired you, Lena Morrison?" Her blood turned cold. He knew. Of course he knew. The words stuck in her throat. "Mr. Caruso, the manager. He said your friends wanted to surprise you. I'm sorry, I needed the money, and he said it was just a harmless joke." Harmless, something flickered in his eyes. Not anger, but something else. Something that looked almost like exhaustion. "Did he tell you who I am?" "He said you were an important client." "That's one way to put it." Marco leaned back in his chair, and despite the relaxed posture, Lena felt like a mouse being studied by a hawk. "Do you know what I find interesting, Lena?" She shook her head. "In my line of work, people lie to me constantly. They lie because they're afraid, or because they want something, or because they think I'm stupid enough to believe them." He paused. "You were honest. Even when you could have run away or played along. You told me the truth." Lena's hands were shaking. "I'm not very good at lying." "No," Marco agreed. "You're not." From somewhere behind her, Lena heard muffled laughter being poorly disguised as coughing. Marco's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Mr. DeLuca, I should go." "Stay." It wasn't a request. But it wasn't a threat either. It was something in between, and Lena found herself frozen in her chair. Marco reached for the wine bottle already on the table and poured 2 glasses with the precision of someone who did everything with precision. He slid one toward her. Since my associates have gone to such trouble to arrange this date, it would be rude to disappoint them, don't you think? His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Besides, I'm curious. About what? About who would take a job like this. About what $100 means to you, he tilted his head slightly. About why you're wearing a necklace that cost $15 from a street vendor, but carrying a purse with a broken zipper that you've tried to hide by positioning it just so. Lena's hand instinctively went to the small angel charm at her throat, the last gift from her mother before the cancer took her. Marco noticed. Of course he noticed. That necklace means something, he said quietly. It wasn't a question. It was my mother's. Was. Lena swallowed hard. She died 3 years ago. For the first time, Marco DeLuca's expression changed. Something softened at the edges, a crack in the marble. He reached up slowly and touched his own collar, where Lena glimpsed a thin gold chain disappearing under his shirt. My sister wore the same charm, he said. An angel. She said it was supposed to protect her. Did it? No. The single word hung in the air between them, heavy with years of grief. Around them, the restaurant continued its elegant dance, waiters gliding between tables, soft piano music drifting from the corner, the clink of silverware on fine china. But at table 7, time seemed to have stopped. Marco picked up his wine glass, but didn't drink. Tell me something, Lena Morrison. If you could have anything in the world right now, what would it be? The question surprised her. No one ever asked her that. That's a strange thing to ask someone at a fake date. Humor me. Lena thought about lying, about saying something small and safe. But his eyes were still on her, and she remembered what he'd said about honesty. A bakery, she heard herself say. A small one, maybe in Brooklyn. Somewhere I could make bread and pastries and create something that makes people happy. Something that lasts. Not money, not security. Those things help you survive, Lena said. A bakery would help me live. Marco DeLuca studied her for another long moment, then did something that made Lena's heart skip. He smiled. A real smile, small and sad, and completely genuine. You're not what they expected, he said. Neither are you. Across the restaurant, the watching men had stopped laughing. They were leaning forward now, confused, trying to understand why their boss hadn't ended the joke. Trying to understand why he was still talking to the waitress, like she mattered. Marco raised his glass. To unexpected encounters. Lena picked up her own glass with trembling fingers. To surviving them. Their glasses touched with a soft chime, and somewhere in that sound, the joke stopped being funny. It became something else entirely. Something none of them could have predicted. Something that would change everything. The wine tasted like it cost more than Lena's weekly paycheck. Probably because it did. She set the glass down carefully, hyper-aware of the men still watching from their scattered tables. Their amusement had curdled into confusion, then something that looked unsettlingly like concern. Your friends don't seem happy, Lena whispered. Marco didn't turn to look. They'll survive their disappointment. What were they expecting? For me to humiliate you? Or fire Caruso? Or, he paused, swirling his wine. Leave immediately, and have someone teach them a lesson about wasting my time. Lena's throat went dry. And you're not going to do any of that. No, Marco's eyes found hers again. I'm going to finish this dinner. With you. And they're going to sit there and wonder why. I don't understand. Neither do I, Marco admitted, and something about that confession, the vulnerability hidden in those 3 words, made Lena's chest tighten. Tell me about your brother. She blinked. How did you? You said my mother's necklace, not my parents. You're working double shifts at a restaurant that pays barely above minimum wage, but you're not spending money on yourself. The hem of your dress is coming loose, but your nails are clean and trimmed. You take care of yourself, just not with money. He leaned forward slightly. You're taking care of someone else. Someone who needs you. Lena felt exposed, like he'd peeled back her skin and read her life story in her bones.
Danny.
He's 16. Asthma, mostly manageable, but the medication is expensive. Our father left before he was born. After Mom died, it was just us. 16, Marco repeated. That's a difficult age to lose a mother. It's a difficult age to become one. Something flickered across Marco's face, recognition maybe. Or respect. You're raising him alone. Someone has to. Lena's fingers found her necklace again, seeking comfort in the familiar metal. He's a good kid. Wants to be an engineer. Gets straight A's even when I can't afford the tutoring his friends have. He deserves better than this. Marco gestured vaguely at the restaurant, at her borrowed dress, at the life she was living. Than me struggling every day to keep us afloat. That's not weakness, Lena. That's strength. The words hit her like a physical thing. No one had ever called her strong before. Tired, yes. Stressed, certainly. But strong. Before she could respond, a waiter appeared. Not her usual colleague, but the senior server who only handled VIP tables. He placed 2 plates before them. Osso buco that smelled like heaven and looked like art. Compliments of the chef, Mr. DeLuca, the waiter said, his voice carefully neutral. He heard you were entertaining tonight. Thank you, Paolo. Marco waited until the waiter left before speaking again. You should eat. It's better than whatever you had for lunch. I had lunch, Lena lied. No, you didn't. She should have been unnerved by how much he saw. Instead, she felt something closer to relief, like she could finally stop pretending everything was fine. Lena picked up her fork and took a bite. The meat dissolved on her tongue, rich and tender, and so far removed from her usual ramen and peanut butter sandwiches that she nearly cried. Good? Marco asked. It's perfect, she paused. Why are you being nice to me? Is that what you think this is? Niceness. Isn't it? Marco cut into his own meal with surgical precision. My sister, Sophia, the one who wore the angel charm, she used to say that most people go through life never really seeing each other. They see roles. Boss. Waitress. Rich. Poor. They see what someone can do for them, or what they represent. He finally took a bite, chewed thoughtfully. She said the tragedy wasn't that we refuse to see each other. It's that we forget how. Lena's eyes burned. She sounds like she was wise. She was 22 when she died. The grief in his voice was old but unhealed, like a wound that had closed over but never properly mended. Lena knew that kind of grief intimately. I'm sorry, she said, and meant it with every fiber of her being. Marco nodded once, acknowledging the sympathy, without dwelling on it. They ate in comfortable silence for a moment, and Lena marveled at how this, sitting across from a stranger who terrified half the restaurant, felt safer than most of her real life. Mr. DeLuca, she started. Marco. Marco, she corrected, the name feeling strange on her tongue. When this dinner ends, I'll go back to my life and you'll go back to yours. Whatever this is. An anomaly, he supplied. Right. An anomaly. It doesn't. We don't, she struggled to find the words. We don't belong in each other's worlds, Marco finished for her. I know. Then why continue the pretense? He was quiet for a long moment, his eyes distant. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. Because for 1 hour, I want to remember what it feels like to be seen as something other than what I am. And I think, he met her gaze, you might want the same thing. Lena's breath caught. He was right. God help her, he was completely right. Lena didn't expect to see Marco DeLuca again. The dinner had ended with a handshake, formal, brief, and so impersonal it almost erased the intimacy of their conversation. He'd thanked her for her time, left a $1,000 tip that made Mr. Caruso's eyes bulge, and walked out with his confused associates trailing behind like confused children. That should have been the end of it. So when a black Mercedes pulled up outside her apartment building on Sunday afternoon, Lena's first instinct was to run. The driver's window rolled down. A man in his 30s with a neat beard and nervous eyes leaned out. "Ms. Morrison? I'm Tony. Mr. DeLuca asked me to return something you lost the other night." "I didn't lose anything." "Your earring, miss." Tony held up a small velvet box. Lena touched her ears automatically. Both her cheap silver studs were exactly where they should be. "Those aren't." "Please, miss," he insisted. Tony's voice dropped to a desperate whisper. "I've been driving around for 2 hours looking for you. If I don't bring you back, just please. It's just coffee. At the cafe on the corner. 30 minutes. Something in his pleading tone made Lena relent. Or maybe it was curiosity. Or maybe, and this scared her most, it was the fact that she hadn't stopped thinking about Marco DeLuca for 2 days straight. 30 minutes, she agreed. The cafe was called Rosie's, a neighborhood institution with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that tasted like burnt rubber. Lena came here every Sunday with Danny, splitting 1 muffin and 2 hot chocolates to make their money stretch. Marco sat in the corner booth, looking impossibly out of place in his tailored coat. No bodyguards visible this time, though Lena suspected they were nearby. She slid into the seat across from him. "You planted the earring story." "Yes." "Why?" "Because if I'd simply asked to see you again, you would have said no." Marco pushed a menu toward her. "Order whatever you want. And don't insult me by asking for just coffee." Lena bristled. "I wasn't." "You were absolutely going to order just coffee." The corner of his mouth twitched. "Order food, Lena. Real food." She ordered the pancakes, not because she was hungry, but because fighting him seemed exhausting. Marco ordered nothing. "You're not eating?" she asked. "I ate." "This isn't about food." "Then what's it about?" Marco leaned back, studying her with that unnerving intensity. "Friday night, you said you wanted a bakery. Something that would help you live, not just survive." "Tell me more about that." "Why?" "Because I want to know." It was such a simple answer, but it disarmed her completely. When was the last time someone wanted to know about her dreams? When was the last time she'd said them out loud? "I used to bake with my mom," Lena found herself saying. "Every Sunday morning. Cinnamon rolls, sourdough bread, these little lemon tarts she learned from her grandmother. The apartment would smell like home, you know? Like everything was going to be okay." She twisted her napkin. "After she died, I stopped. Couldn't afford the ingredients. Couldn't afford the time. But I still remember all the recipes. Sometimes I write them down at night, like if I keep them preserved, the memories won't fade." "Show me." "What?" Marco gestured to her purse. "You carry a notebook. I saw it Friday, when you were clutching your bag, like it might save your life." "Show me." Lena hesitated, then pulled out the battered composition book she'd been using for 3 years. The pages were filled with her mother's recipes, written in her own careful handwriting, annotated with memories and modifications. Marco took it with surprising reverence, turning pages slowly. "Your mother taught you all these?" "Most of them. Some I figured out myself, trying to recreate what I remembered. This one," he pointed to a recipe for olive bread. "The notation says Mom's favorite. She ate 3 pieces the day before the hospital." Lena's throat tightened. She knew it was almost time. She wanted to taste everything one last time. Marco was quiet for a long moment, his finger resting on the page. "My sister made cannoli. Terrible, honestly, always too sweet, the shell soggy. But she was so proud of them." He looked up. "I haven't tasted cannoli since she died. I can't bring myself to." "How long ago?" 23 years. I was 21. She was 22. "What happened?" Lena asked, then immediately regretted it. "I'm sorry, that's too personal." "She stepped in front of a bullet meant for me." Marco's voice was flat, emotionless, but his hand trembled slightly as he closed the notebook. "She died instantly. The angel charm she always wore was covered in her blood. I kept it. I've worn it every day since." Lena's hand went to her own necklace. "Marco, you asked why I wanted to see you again." He slid the notebook back across the table. Because when you talked about your mother, about baking, about creating something that lasts for the first time in 23 years, I remembered what it felt like to want something beyond survival. Beyond the empire I built on her grave. The pancakes arrived, but Lena couldn't eat. Couldn't move. Couldn't do anything but stare at this dangerous man who'd just cracked himself open in a dingy cafe. I don't understand what you want from me, she whispered. Neither do I, Marco admitted. But I'd like to find out. If you're willing. Every rational part of Lena's brain screamed at her to say no. To walk away. To protect Danny and herself from whatever darkness surrounded Marco DeLuca. But the irrational part, the part that had survived 3 years of grief and poverty and fear, recognized something in his eyes. Loneliness. The same loneliness she saw in her own mirror every morning. One more meeting, she heard herself say. Then we stop. Before someone gets hurt. Marco's smile was sad and knowing. Lena, someone always gets hurt. The question is whether the cost is worth it. Marco sat alone in his study at 3 in the morning, unable to sleep. The room was dark except for the amber glow of whiskey in his glass and the city lights filtering through the bulletproof windows. On his desk lay Lena's recipe notebook. She'd forgotten it at the cafe, and he'd kept it, telling himself he'd return it next time.
If there was a next time.
He opened it again, reading the margin notes in her careful handwriting. Danny loved these, made Mom laugh even when she was tired. Perfect for cold mornings. Every recipe was a memory. Every memory was love made tangible. Marco pulled the gold chain from under his shirt, letting Sophia's angel charm rest in his palm. 23 years, and the weight of it still felt like accusation. Marco, promise me something, Sophia had said the week before she died. They'd been at their grandmother's house in Queens, stealing cannoli from the kitchen like children. Promise me you won't let this life make you forget how to be human. What are you talking about? Papa's grooming you to take over. I see it. You're getting harder, colder. It's necessary, I know. But don't forget that there's more to life than power and respect and fear. She touched the angel at her throat. Don't forget how to love, Fratellino. He'd laughed at her then, called her dramatic, kissed her forehead and promised nothing would change him. A week later, she'd thrown herself in front of him when the Calabrese family sent their message. The bullet meant for his heart had found hers instead. Marco had kept his promise after that. He'd forgotten how to be human. Forgotten how to love. Built an empire on calculation and fear, became the ghost his father had wanted him to be. Until a waitress with kind eyes and a borrowed dress had looked at him like he was just a man. His phone buzzed. A message from Vincent, his most trusted underboss. Boss, about the girl. We need to talk. Marco deleted it without responding. Across the city, Lena lay awake in her tiny bedroom, listening to Danny's breathing through the thin wall. You okay? Her best friend Jade's voice crackled through her phone. You've been weird since Friday. Define weird. You turned down the extra shift at Giordano's. You, who'd work 7 days a week if they let you. And you've checked your phone like 40 times in the past hour. Lena rolled onto her side, staring at the water stain on her ceiling. Something happened at work. With a customer. Did someone harass you? Because I swear to God. No, nothing like that.
He was kind.
Unexpectedly kind. Oh, Jade's tone shifted.
Oh.
This is about a guy. It's not about a guy. Lena Morrison, you're the worst liar I've ever met. Who is he? Lena closed her eyes. Someone I can't afford a thing about. Someone from a completely different world. Rich. Something like that. Well, did he ask to see you again? The memory of Marco's sad smile flooded back. I'd like to find out. If you're willing. Yes, Lena admitted quietly. And I said yes. Which was stupid. Which was dangerous. Which was human. Jade suggested gently. Lena, you've been surviving for 3 years. Taking care of Danny. Working yourself to death, never doing anything for yourself. Maybe it's okay to want something, even if it's complicated.
You don't understand.
He's not just rich. Lena struggled for words that wouldn't expose too much. He's powerful. Important. The kind of person who has enemies. Being around him could put Danny at risk. Did he threaten you?
No. God, no.
Lena's voice caught. He was lonely, Jade. Like, soul-deep lonely. Like me. And that's what scares me most. Not that he's dangerous, but that I understand him. Jade was quiet for a moment. What are you going to do? I don't know. But that was a lie. Lena knew exactly what she was going to do. She was going to see him again, consequences be damned, because for the first time in 3 years, someone had asked about her dreams and actually listened to the answer. In his study, Marco poured another whiskey and opened his laptop. With a few keystrokes, he pulled up Lena Morrison's background check, the one Vincent had compiled without being asked. No criminal record. Student loans from a nursing degree she'd never finished. Mother died of ovarian cancer. Father whereabouts unknown. Brother Daniel Morrison, honor student at a public school in Brooklyn. Medical records showing chronic asthma. Everything Lena had told him was true. Marco closed the laptop, disgusted with himself. This was what he'd become, a man who investigated the one person who'd shown him genuine humanity. But in his world, trust was currency, and he'd long ago spent everything he had. He picked up his phone and typed a message to Vincent. Leave the girl alone. That's an order. Then he opened his contacts and stared at Lena's number, lifted from the restaurant's employee files, another violation of her privacy. His thumb hovered over the call button. In the end, he set the phone down and picked up her notebook instead, reading recipes until dawn broke over Manhattan, each one a small window into a life he'd never have. A life where love was measured in flour and sugar. Where protection meant warm bread, not loaded guns. Where family was something you built, not something that got you killed. The envelope arrived on Thursday. Lena found it tucked under her apartment door when she got home from her morning shift, plain white, no return address, her name written in block letters that looked like they were trying not to be identifiable. Inside was a single photograph. Her and Marco at Rosie's Cafe. The angle suggested it had been taken from across the street, through the window. Someone had drawn a red X over her face. No note. No demands. Just the X. Her hands shook so badly, she dropped the photo. Lena? Danny emerged from his room, backpack slung over one shoulder. You okay? You look like you saw a ghost. She kicked the photo under the couch before he could see it.
Fine.
Just tired. How was school? Boring, he studied her with the too perceptive eyes of a kid who'd grown up too fast. You're lying. Danny. You've been weird all week. Distracted. Yesterday you made coffee and forgot to add coffee. He dropped his backpack. What's going on? Lena wanted to tell him. Wanted to show him the photo and admit she'd made a terrible mistake getting involved with Marco DeLuca. But Danny was 16 and brilliant and would immediately start researching, and the last thing she needed was her baby brother discovering exactly who Marco was.
Work stuff, she said.
Nothing you need to worry about. That's what Mom used to say. Right before, he stopped, his face crumpling slightly before he rebuilt the walls. Never mind. I've got homework. He disappeared back into his room, and Lena retrieved the photo with trembling hands. She should call the police. She should run. She should.
Her phone rang.
Unknown number. Hello? Lena Morrison? A woman's voice, professional and cold. This is Detective Sarah Chin with the NYPD. I need you to come down to the station. We have some questions about your relationship with Marco DeLuca. Lena's blood turned to ice. I don't have a relationship with Ms. Morrison. We have surveillance photos of you meeting with Mr. DeLuca on 2 separate occasions. We're currently investigating his organization's activities, and your cooperation would be. Lena hung up. Her phone immediately rang again. Same number. She turned it off, her mind racing.
Police.
Threatening photos. Marco's world was already swallowing her whole, and she'd barely stepped inside it. She needed to end this.
Now.
before Danny got hurt. Marco's phone buzzed during a meeting with his underbosses. He ignored it the first 3 times. The 4th time, Vincent cleared his throat. Boss, might be important. Marco checked the screen. Tony, his driver. He answered. What? Boss, there's a problem. Someone just tried to grab the Morrison girl outside her work. She fought them off. Witnesses say she pepper-sprayed 2 guys and ran. But boss, Tony's voice dropped. It wasn't us. And it wasn't cops. Marco's blood went cold. Where is she now? Don't know. She's not answering her phone. Marco was already standing, grabbing his coat. Around the table, his underbosses exchanged glances. Marco, Vincent stood as well. We need to talk about this situation. Later.
No.
Now, Vincent's voice carried the weight of 20 years of friendship. The Calabrese family knows about her. They're interpreting your interest as weakness. And frankly, so are some of our own people. Marco turned slowly. Excuse me? You've met with this girl twice. You've had men watching her building. You threatened Polly when he made a joke about her. Vincent spread his hands. In our world, that means she matters. And if she matters to you, she's leverage. Then make it clear she doesn't matter. Do you actually believe that? Vincent stepped closer, lowering his voice. Brother, I've known you since we were kids stealing cigarettes from your old man. I've never seen you like this. Not since Sophia. The name hung between them like a grenade. Don't, Marco warned. Someone has to say it. You're not thinking clearly. This girl, she's not part of our world.
She can't be.
And every day you pretend otherwise, you paint a bigger target on her back. Marco's jaw clenched. I'll handle it.
How?
By keeping her under surveillance? By scaring off everyone who looks at her wrong? That's not protection, Marco. That's a prison. Before Marco could respond, his phone rang again.
Different number this time.
He answered without thinking. Mr. DeLuca? Lena's voice was barely above a whisper. I need to see you.
Now.
Where are you? St. Michael's Church. The one on 34th. A pause. Someone tried to grab me today. And the police called asking about you. I can't. I need this to stop. Whatever this is, it needs to stop. Marco closed his eyes. Vincent was right. He'd been selfish, indulging in the fantasy that he could have something normal, something human. And now Lena was paying the price. I'll be there in 20 minutes, he said quietly. Lena, I'm sorry. Just come alone. Please. She hung up. Marco pocketed his phone and looked at Vincent. Get eyes on St. Michael's. Perimeter only. Anyone makes a move toward that church, you stop them. Marco. Do it. He walked out, leaving his underbosses staring after him, and for the first time in 23 years, Marco DeLuca prayed that he could do the right thing. Even if it destroyed him. St. Michael's was empty except for Lena, sitting in the last pew with her arms wrapped around herself. Marco slid in beside her, maintaining a respectful distance. For a long moment, neither spoke. The church smelled like incense and old wood, and afternoon light filtered through stained glass, painting them both in fractured colors. I pepper-sprayed 2 men today, Lena finally said. I've never hurt anyone in my life. I cried for an hour after I killed a spider last month. But today I sprayed them right in the eyes and ran without looking back. Good, Marco said quietly. Good. She turned to face him, and he saw the fear there, the anger. Marco, the police called me. Someone left a photo of us with an X over my face. Men tried to kidnap me in broad daylight. This isn't good. This is a nightmare. I know. Then end it. Tell whoever needs to know that I'm nobody. That Friday was a joke and Sunday was returning my notebook. Tell them I don't matter. Marco's hand found hers before he could stop himself. I can't. Why not? Because it would be a lie. His thumb traced the rough skin of her knuckles, hands that worked too hard, hands that deserved softness. And I told you, Lena, I value honesty. She pulled away. Then we stopped seeing each other. Problem solved. They already think you matter. Distancing myself now won't erase that. It'll just leave you unprotected. So what do we do? Marco was quiet, weighing his words carefully. What he was about to suggest broke every rule he'd lived by for 23 years. But Vincent was right. Half measures wouldn't work anymore. Saturday night. Come to my estate for dinner. Lena stared at him like he'd lost his mind. Your estate? Yes. The place where you conduct your business. Where your people are. Where I'll be completely in your world with no way out. Yes. Have you actually lost your mind? Marco turned to face her fully. Listen to me. Right now, you're a curiosity. A potential weakness. The Calabrese family is testing to see if you can be used against me. My own people are questioning my judgment. But if I bring you to my home, to a place where I've never brought any outsider, it changes the equation. How? It makes you untouchable. It sends a message that anyone who targets you targets me directly. It puts you under my protection officially. Or it makes me look like your property. Marco flinched. I would never. I know you wouldn't mean it that way. But that's how they'll see it, isn't it? The Mafia boss and his.
What?
Girlfriend? Mistress? What am I supposed to be in this scenario? Someone I care about, Marco said simply. Someone I won't let them hurt. Lena laughed, but there was no humor in it. You barely know me. I know you work 2 jobs to raise your brother. I know you dream of a bakery, but spend your money on his asthma medication. I know you wear your mother's necklace every day and carry her recipes like a Bible. I know you're strong enough to survive 3 years of grief alone and kind enough to show compassion to a stranger who terrifies most people. He paused. I know more about who you are than people I've worked with for decades. That's not the same as caring. No, Marco agreed. But it's a start. Lena closed her eyes. If I come to dinner, what happens after? Do I just live under your protection forever? Do I become part of your world?
No.
You stay exactly who you are. In your apartment, at your job, living your life. But with the understanding that you're off limits. That touching you means war. And if I say no, then I'll do my best to keep you safe from a distance. But Lena, his voice dropped. It won't be enough. They've already made their move. They know your address, your schedule, where Danny goes to school. The color drained from her face. Danny? He's safe. I have 2 men watching him right now. He doesn't know they're there. You put men on my brother without asking me? I put men on him to keep him alive. Would you prefer I'd ask permission first? Lena stood abruptly, pacing between the pews. This is insane. A week ago, I was just a waitress. Now I'm caught in some mob war because your friends thought it would be funny to set us up. I know. I should hate you for this. I know that too. She stopped, facing the altar where a tortured Christ hung on his cross. Why me, Marco? Really? You could have walked away that night. Could have laughed off the joke and forgotten I existed. Why didn't you? Marco stood, closing the distance between them. Because when you talked about your mother's recipes, about creating something that lasts, I remembered Sophia. Not her death, but her life. The way she laughed. The terrible cannoli. The promise I broke. He reached for his collar, pulling out the angel charm. For 23 years, I've worn this like penance. But when I'm with you, it feels like memory instead. Like maybe I can honor her without drowning in guilt. Lena's eyes shimmered. That's not fair. Nothing about this is fair. Saturday, she whispered. 1 dinner. Then you figure out how to end this without anyone getting hurt. I will. Promise me. Marco thought about promises, about Sophia, about all the ways good intentions turn to ash. But he looked at Lena's desperate hope and couldn't refuse. I promise. The lie tasted like ashes on his tongue. The estate was nothing like Lena had imagined. She'd expected something cold and imposing, marble columns and intimidating statues, a monument to power and violence. Instead, Marco's home was almost modest, a renovated brownstone in the Bronx surrounded by old oak trees. The furniture was worn but elegant, and every room smelled faintly of lemon polish and old books. This was my grandmother's house, Marco explained as he led her through the foyer. She raised 5 children here. Refused to leave even after my father made his fortune. Said new money couldn't buy old memories. Lena ran her hand along the wooden banister. It feels like a home. It was. Once. They ate in the dining room, just the two of them, with food that came from Marco's own kitchen. Not catered, not restaurant quality, just simple pasta with red sauce and a salad, the kind of meal families shared on ordinary nights. You cooked this? Lena asked, surprised. My grandmother taught all of us. Said a man who couldn't feed himself was useless. Marco poured wine into both their glasses. Sophia was the baker, I was the cook. We used to fight over kitchen space every Sunday. Who won?
She did.
Always his smile was soft with memory. She'd bat her eyes at me and promise to let me have the kitchen the next week. Never happened. Lena took a bite of pasta. It was good, not perfect, but made with care. You miss her. Every day. But tonight he paused, choosing his words carefully. Tonight, I feel like I can remember her without it hurting quite so much. Thank you for that. I didn't do anything. You're here. That's enough. They talked through dinner. About Danny's dreams of MIT, about Marco's grandmother who'd refused to speak English until she was 70, about small things that felt enormous in their intimacy. And for the first time since her mother died, Lena felt the weight on her chest ease slightly. Maybe this could work. Maybe they could. The front door exploded inward. Lena screamed as 3 men rushed into the dining room, guns drawn. Marco was on his feet instantly, positioning himself between her and the intruders. Nobody moves. The lead man's voice was rough, his face covered by a ski mask. We're taking the girl. You cooperate, nobody dies. Calabrese sent you, Marco said, his voice deadly calm. Smart man. Now step aside, or... The window shattered. 2 more figures crashed through, but these ones wore Marco's colors. Gunfire erupted, deafening in the enclosed space. Lena dove under the table, hands over her ears, her entire body shaking. She heard shouting, breaking glass, someone screaming. Then hands grabbed her, rough, unfamiliar hands, dragging her out from under the table. Got her, the masked man yelled. Marco's roar was animal, primal. There was a sickening crack, and the hands released her. Lena scrambled backward, her eyes finding Marco standing over the fallen man, knuckles bloody. Get her to the car, Marco commanded his men.
Now.
Boss, there's more outside. I said now. Strong arms lifted Lena. She caught a glimpse of Marco's face. All pretense of civilization stripped away, leaving something ancient and terrible before she was carried through the kitchen and out the back door. The car ride was a blur. Sirens. Shouting. The screech of tires. She ended up at an abandoned warehouse near the docks, surrounded by Marco's men, all of them tense and armed. An hour later, Marco arrived. He looked like he'd walked through hell, suit torn, blood on his collar, eyes wild. But when he saw Lena, something in him cracked. Are you hurt? His hands found her face, turning it gently, checking for injuries.
No.
I'm Marco. What happened? They were watching the house. Waiting for the right moment, his jaw clenched. I should have seen it coming. Should have anticipated. You saved me. I put you in danger in the first place, he released her, stepping back. This is my fault. All of it, Marco. No, his voice broke. I was selfish. I wanted something normal so badly that I ignored every warning sign.
Vincent was right.
You can't be part of this world, and I can't be part of yours. Lena's chest tightened. What are you saying? I'm saying I'll make sure you're safe. I'll end the threat. But then he couldn't meet her eyes. Then we can't see each other anymore. Ever. It's the only way to protect you. You don't get to decide that alone. Yes, I do. Because I'm the one who brought this violence to your door. I'm the one who turned you into a target finally. He looked at her, and his eyes were devastated. I care about you too much to destroy you, Lena. Marco, please. My driver will take you home. You'll have protection until this is resolved. And then he turned away. Then you'll have your life back. The one you deserve. Without me in it. He walked toward the exit, shoulders rigid with the weight of his decision. Marco. Lena called after him. He stopped but didn't turn around. Thank you, she whispered. For everything. His shoulders shook once. Just once, before he straightened and walked out into the night. Lena stood alone in the warehouse, surrounded by strangers with guns, and finally let herself cry. 3 weeks passed like a funeral procession, slow, painful, inevitable. Lena didn't see Marco again. His men remained shadows in her periphery for the first week, then gradually disappeared. The threat stopped. The Calabrese family had been dealt with, according to a brief phone call from Vincent, who'd spoken with the emotional warmth of a corporate lawyer. Life returned to normal, if normal could exist after having your world tilted on its axis. Except for the envelope. It had arrived the morning after the warehouse, thick, cream-colored paper that felt expensive under her fingers. Inside was a cashier's check for $50,000 and a note in Marco's precise handwriting. For the bakery. Not charity. Investment. You'll pay me back in cinnamon rolls. Lena had cried for an hour, then done something she'd never allowed herself to do. She'd dreamed. Danny, hand me that paintbrush. Her brother passed it over, grinning at the smear of blue paint across his cheek. I still can't believe this is happening. Me neither, Lena admitted, stepping back to admire their work. The storefront was small, just a corner space in Brooklyn with big windows and exposed brick walls, but it was hers. The lease papers sat in her bag, signed and notarized. Lena's kitchen, the sign would say.
Simple.
True. You never told me who gave you the money, Danny said, not for the first time. A friend. Must be some friend. Lena thought about Marco's face in the warehouse, the way he'd looked at her like she was something precious that he had to release. He was. She focused on painting, hiding her expression. We don't talk anymore. Danny was quiet for a moment, then put down his brush. Lena, can I ask you something? Are you happy? Like really happy? Because you've been smiling more, but you also seem
sad.
Like you won a prize but lost something more important to win it. Lena's throat tightened. 16 years old, and he saw everything. I'm happy, she said, and it wasn't entirely a lie. Sometimes happiness and sadness can exist together. Sometimes getting what you want means accepting what you can't have. That's a terrible fortune cookie. She laughed despite herself, ruffling his hair. Get back to work, wise guy. This wall isn't going to paint itself. As Danny returned to painting, Lena allowed herself one moment of weakness. She pulled out her phone and opened the only photo she had of Marco, a blurry shot someone had posted online from the restaurant, taken without his knowledge. He was looking off to the side, his expression unguarded, almost soft. She'd deleted it 3 times. Re-downloaded it twice. Tonight, she'd delete it for good. She had to. Moving forward meant letting go, even when every cell in her body screamed to hold on. But first, she had something to do. Marco sat in his car across the street from the bakery, watching through tinted windows as Lena painted the interior walls with her brother. He'd been doing this for 3 days now, parking just close enough to see her, far enough to remain invisible. Pathetic behavior for a man of his position. Vincent had stopped commenting after the first intervention attempt failed. The letter had arrived this morning, delivered by a courier to his office. He'd known immediately who it was from. He recognized Lena's careful handwriting from her recipe notebook, which he'd finally returned through an intermediary. He unfolded it now, reading for the 10th time. Dear Marco, I've started this letter 6 times and deleted it 5. Words feel inadequate for what I want to say, but I'll try. Thank you. Not just for the money, which I'll pay back, every penny I promise, but for seeing me. For the first time since my mother died, someone looked at me and saw Lena. Not the struggling waitress, not Danny's guardian, not the girl drowning in grief. Just me. You said I helped you remember Sophia without it hurting so much. I want you to know that you did the same for me with my mother. Our conversations reminded me that grief doesn't have to be the whole story, that there's room for joy and dreams alongside the pain. I know why you ended things. I understand it. I even agree with it. Our worlds were never meant to intersect, and forcing them together would have destroyed us both. But I need you to know something. You're not just the man who runs an empire built on fear. You're also the man who cooked pasta in his grandmother's kitchen. The man who listened when I talked about recipes and dreams. The man who wore his sister's necklace for 23 years because he loved her enough to carry the weight of her memory. That man, the real you hidden under all the armor, he deserves peace too. I'm opening my bakery next month. Every morning, when I bake the first batch of bread, I'll think of my mother. And I'll think of you. Not with sadness, but with gratitude. Our blind date was supposed to be a joke. Instead, it gave me my life back. I hope someday it gives you yours too. With love and gratitude, Lena. P.S. The standing offer for cinnamon rolls is real. You know where to find me. Marco's vision blurred. He touched the angel charm at his throat, Sophia's charm, and for the first time in 23 years, it felt less like penance and more like permission. Don't forget how to be human, Sophia had said. He'd forgotten for so long. But for a few brief, shining moments with Lena Morrison, he'd remembered. Through the car window, he watched Lena laugh at something Danny said, her face bright with hope and possibility. She deserved this life, this normal, beautiful, uncomplicated life. And he would give it to her by staying away. Marco folded the letter carefully and placed it in his jacket pocket, over his heart. Then he signaled his driver. Where to, boss? Marco took one last look at the bakery, at the woman who'd cracked open his chest and reminded him what it felt like to want something beyond survival. Home, he said quietly. As the car pulled away, a single tear tracked down Marco DeLuca's cheek, the first he'd shed since Sophia's funeral. Not tears of grief this time. Tears of gratitude. Because a waitress in a borrowed dress had taught a monster how to be a man again, even if only for a moment. And sometimes, a moment was enough to last a lifetime.